Yo, welcome everyone to Weird Growth, the podcast where we hear about the strange and often unpredictable journey that founders take. The conversation doesn't start here. It doesn't stop here. If you want to stay one step ahead and unlock access to exclusive insights, thought-provoking summaries of our latest episodes, and a curated collection of valuable resources from across the web, don't miss out on our monthly newsletter. I invite you to subscribe to our newsletter on the link in the description. Today, on this episode, we have Kevin Garber, who's a serial entrepreneur who built and grew ManageFlitter to over 4 million users and thousands of paid customers. And he's now the founder of Zlinky, which aims to solve the challenge of helping users save and organize their bookmarks and screenshots. Kevin, welcome, and thank you so much for joining us on Weird Growth, mate.
Thanks for inviting me on the show, Cam, and to talk about all things startup growth, passions of mine, and I would even go so far as to say a calling of mine.
Oh, I'm really looking. I'm sure you've got heaps of interesting stories, so you're really looking forward to getting stuck into it. Could you please just introduce yourself and how have you come to do what you do?
Sure, I'll try to be as brief as possible. So, founder of, as you mentioned, a product called Zlinky, which is a new product. Mobile and web app that is image and bookmark manager to help people get organized. But essentially, my entrepreneurial journey, well, I started my very, very first operation in high school, making customized stationery, and I'll be proud to say, Cam, that I sold the grand total of one.
Yeah.
One customer. My father was one of the first people to have a laser printer in the town, and I thought, well, let's make custom stationery. So I at least sold one. But skip a few years and started a digital agency, and then online product was always my passion, and then developed a few products that had some level of success, and the big outside success was with ManageFlitter, which was a social media app for Twitter to help people manage their Twitter account. I can drill down into any aspect of those of that story, I guess.
I would love that. That sounds fascinating. And it's really interesting. It's really quite a common aspect of the guests that we have on Weird Growth is that they had some sort of hustle in high school where they were, following an idea. And I think that entrepreneurial spirit is something that comes to people quite young and sticks with you through life. So it sounds like you've got that bug for sure.
Well, I still remember actually that feeling I had. This was obviously in the days before mobile phones. I actually still remember that feeling where there was a random call to the house and my parents said, someone's on the phone that wants to talk to you about your ad about stationery. And I remember like, wow, this stuff actually worked. It was, and that adrenaline hit of actually providing a little bit of value.
Yes.
You never get bored of. There's something almost existential about being useful in the world. In Arnold Schwarzenegger's latest documentary, he talks about just be useful. And I think it taps into that primal urge to be useful.
100%. Yeah, there's nothing like that feeling, that dopamine hit that you get from, helping someone to be a better version of themselves. And I think ultimately when we're creating products or software or, building something which didn't exist before, which makes people's lives better, it's a wonderful feeling. Before we get a little bit more stuck into your story, I have a little pop quiz, which we ask on Weird Growth.
Go for it.
Which is, if you were to start from scratch today and create a new business right now, what would it be and who would you be helping?
Oh, wow. That's a great question. I've got such a reputation amongst my friends. It's always just spinning out all sorts of crazy ideas. I tell you what it would relate to, Cam. I think, as much as I love the online world and the scalability and the internet, the geographically agnostic, et cetera, one of my passions lately has been observing how people are just very, very hungry to connect in real life again. Post-COVID, people are tired of social media. They're tired of the apps. And I'm noticing, I even logged in for the first time to that website Meetup the other day, just out of curiosity. and it's cranking in Sydney. People are getting together and doing all sorts of things together.
Mm-hmm.
So it would definitely be around, be a bit full circle, maybe using technology, but catalyzing for in-person experiences. I feel, at least in Sydney, it's one of these contradictions that as a city gets bigger, people actually get more disconnected from each other. The bigger the city is, the less likely you are to talk to your neighbor, which is kind of weird, but
Yeah.
that's so it would definitely be along those lines.
Yeah, no, really powerful insight there, Kevin, because like personally, I've started getting involved in a local bowling club, and it's like an urban green space and inner city. It's a little bit like the Crackerjack movie, where this old school kind of club, where a lot of the people who used to be involved aren't around anymore, and there's this beautiful community space which is underutilized. And
Having shared experiences, right?
yeah, it's authentic, and it's about connecting in person. Like the local dads, got involved and started putting craft beer on tap and making areas for younger kids to play,
Awesome.
and not precious about the greens. And it's just a really wholesome kind of community organization to be involved in. So
There's a small little cafe down the road from me that's tiny, but they've got little communal table and a little outside communal deck that fits 4 people. And people love this place because of the communal spaces. It gives them permission to kind of sit and say hi to the other person sitting on the little deck. And I've just see that I think maybe, maybe even in 3 to 10 years, we might be having this conversation and seeing how we at the beginning of people wanting to really reconnect and spaces be redefined away from meeting online and just existing in the line. I think actually Mark Zuckerberg may have an element of it wrong where he's kind of pushing for the metaverse, but I actually think people still really want to hang out in real life more than ever.
Yep, 100%. Well said. I'm really interested to learn more about ManageFlitter and what you achieved there. But can you give us a little bit of background about the lead up to how you got to launching that product?
Sure. So we had a small digital agency in Sydney doing email newsletters, websites. I was lucky enough to hire an engineer he was a physics major, an all-round genius. And I noticed very early on in the piece that this chap, his name's James Peter, he landed up being my co-founder on ManageFlitter. And I noticed very quick in the piece that he was a very unusual, talented, awesome guy.
Yep.
And he was also quite entrepreneurial, and we started doing some products together. But I'll just take one step back before then, which was, we spoke about inflection points. And I think there was one very, very important inflection point. We did, as mentioned, we did email newsletters and websites. We had one customer in Melbourne that kept on making typos on their website. And I said to one of the engineers, I said, it'd be really great if we could automate spell check monitoring. And he says, let me have a think about that. Long story short, he developed a prototype for an automatic spell checker. I looked at it and I thought, wow, this is incredible. We wrapped that up into a product over a couple of weeks. And here comes the interesting part. We branded it up. I reached out to TechCrunch, the big blog. This was 2008. Woke up the next morning. One of my team said to me, TechCrunch ran a story on us. The registrations just keep rolling in, wow. Right? We got, oh man, I think we got, because we just had like a apply for the beta or something like that.
Yeah.
We had thousands and thousands. Incredible. And that was definitely the inflection point where I realized that, a little scrappy entrepreneur from Sydney, migrant, we can kind of do whatever we aim to do. And this was pre-Canva, it was pre-Atlassian hitting the big time. Things were a lot more humble in the tech startup scene. Now it doesn't seem as grand that this little Aussie startup gets some press. I mean, Canva's all over the press, Atlassian, Safety Culture, all these other great startups. But that really gave me the confidence to that no limits. Let's go for this thing.
Yeah.
And we landed up getting all sorts of exciting customers on that product, News Corporation, BBC News. That product lasted for many, 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 many years. A very humble product solving a very simple problem.
That's the really cool thing about being an agency founder as well, is you do get to work with clients and you get exposed to little niche problems, which on their own, aren't a massive deal. But if you can find an elegant solution, which then can be extrapolated out to many, many people, because if one person's got that problem, the likelihood is that many do. It's a really great opportunity to then incubate your own products in-house. Can you talk a little bit more about the process of what building a product as a bit of a side hustle inside an agency is like?
Yeah, look, I mean, to your point, I think you're spot on. I think a huge advantage of an agency is you get to see the inner workings, the day-to-day real life problems. Sometimes even if you work with enterprise, I mean, in the enterprise world, how many problems do they have every day that remain unsolved? I think the flip side, the difficult part is the thinking in terms of servicing customers from an agency perspective versus developing a product is quite different. And I've seen some friends that have agencies really try to have side hustles and segue into product, and they've struggled because it is quite different. We were quite lucky in that, in the respect, there was my engineer that was quite entrepreneurial and quite brilliant. We managed to execute quite well on these products. I would say if there's an agency that is looking at having side hustles and getting into products, it's find yourself one or two or three engineers that you can fund, that are 10 times engineers or 3 times or 4 times or 5 times engineers. You really need to hustle and execute well, to get some escape velocity. It's all about that escape velocity.
Sure.
And
The way that we think about it is, in Ammo, at least, we love building side products, mainly just because it helps keep our tools sharp as a team and gets to explore and switch.
And it's fun, right?
It's so fun. It's fascinating.
Yeah, it's alchemy. You're creating something real from nothing.
Yeah, and we're eating our own dog food in a little way, because we advise our clients every day that are doing that day to day. So it keeps us relevant. But the challenge is that we see is that you've got this monster which needs feeding all the time, which is the traditional agency with all the overheads and staff costs and things, and then you've got a baby, which is the product, and that you've got to stop the monster from eating the baby, because the big part of the business is the thing which gets the priority. So how do you sort of like protect the baby from that monster?
I mean, when ManageFlitter revenue surpassed our agency revenue, we sold the agency, not for any fancy amount of money, but at least we got a little bit, and it allowed the agency to continue. But we saw the future and scalability in the ManageFlitter side of things. Look, when product starts to scale and really you hit that J curve, it's like, it's wild. Agency is a lot, as you know, is a lot more difficult to scale. Agency, you can get your first customer almost on the first day. The product can take a lot longer, but when it hits that J curve, it's wild. It's really wild.
You launched ManageFlitter out of the agency as well. What was the sort of insight that you had to create that?
Great story, I think. I went to the TechCrunch conference. I think it was 2008, 2009. I get the dates a bit blurry. Twitter was all the rage at the TechCrunch conference. I signed up for Twitter, fell in love with it. It was the times where the Twitter API was open, and everywhere, all the devs were building amazing products on top of the Twitter API. I came back to Sydney, was using Twitter a lot. My right-hand person, James, also started using Twitter. And I said to him one day, I said, it would be really useful if I could see who's not following me back and declutter my accounts. And he's He said, "Oh, I think we had an intern at the time." He said, I can get." I even remember her name was Cheryl. I said, "I'll get Cheryl to work on that." Cheryl did a prototype. I said to him, "How did you do?" He said, "Oh, it's very rough, but I'll redo it." Being the brilliant developer that he is, he reworked it. We released it. We tweeted it out, and it just went like this.
Wow.
Just yeah, and that was the beginning of the wild roller coaster that was ManageFlitter. So again, I like productivity tools. I like tools that do something. We rode the wave. Twitter was all the rage. The API was all the rage. We rode the wave, and kind of a little bit of a mixture of right place, right time, as well executed, and things you know, just went from there. Free version for a year, then we built out some feature sets, and then started having premium versions available after 1 year. And that journey went for 9 years.
You said it went like that, but surely there was more to it than that. What do you think was, you said you executed well. What do you think it was that really allowed it to take off so quickly?
Look, I think the luck and timing married with our execution for this incredible value prop. I'll give you an example. That because it was a product for Twitter, that people landed up talking about it on Twitter. So our marketing was organic and just took care of itself, and people were doing YouTube videos about it, and having webinars about it, and it became very self-perpetuating.
Right. Yeah.
We were bootstrapped. We were very scrappy.
Yep. So the acquisition channel was basically inside the product itself.
Exactly. Which was quite unusual, and quite fortuitous. Ultimately, we also the word unfollow on Google. We had the first organic page rank for that for many years, which was kind of cool. So if you just typed in unfollow, ManageFlitter came up. And it was, yeah, look, it was a coming together. And also, I think the lesson is we were out there on our surfboards. I was always looking for opportunities. I was always keeping my eye open. I saw James, was an incredible guy, and we were trying to just watch for waves and catch them and do our thing.
Love that analogy. What would you say to people who, I have conversations with people who are like, I really want to build something, but I just don't have the right idea, or I just can't find that problem that really needs solving. What are some tips that you can have that you have for people who are watching for waves with their surfboards?
I mean, I think they're overthinking it in a way. I think if you're a builder, you're a builder. But if you really believe that you don't have ideas, you can also just start with doing an existing idea a lot better.
Nice.
Start a plumbing business and just have it all tech enabled, and where you can book online and guarantee appointments and branding slick and all. I mean, boom, there's your idea.
Yeah. There's no shortage of opportunity out there. Yeah.
Yeah, most ideas are derivatives in any case. I mean, Google was search engine number 17 or something. Zoom was not the first video conferencing product. I mean, GoToMeeting was around forever before Zoom. So I think people are just, sometimes they're waiting for this unique, novel idea. But guess what? Most of us don't have it. ManageFlitter had many competitors. So don't look for something. It doesn't need to be novel. Take something you're passionate about, put a spin on it, and away you go. Sometimes that spin can be really simple. Sometimes you can just brand it up properly. Sometimes you can just wrap customer service around it.
Yeah.
Simple spins, and you've got yourself a big business.
That's a really nice angle on it. Yeah. Thanks, Kevin. So ManageFlitter wound up last year. I'm sure you have some views on what's happened with Twitter in recent times, and X, or as it's now called. What was that like when obviously the API started closing up and things to Twitter? Can you talk us through how that felt and what that journey was like for you?
Sure. So one of the challenges with ManageFlitter was we had a single dependency, that being that we were reliant on Twitter providing us API access to their product.
Yeah. So I call that platform risk, I guess.
Platform risk. Yep. Classic. Total nightmare to deal with. I spent a lot of time trying to build relationships with Twitter. It was very, very difficult. Twitter had become a very big company. The feeling that I got via the back channel was that half of the company, or half of Twitter, loves third-party products. The other half hate them. It was very stressful for me to have this a kill switch to a business that, on one hand, we had people that loved us so much. I would go to conferences. I had people coming up to me and would be like, "Wow, you're the ManageFlitter guy. Like, I love your product." Like, we were kind of like Twitter famous, which was kind of cute.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, Twitter, we just could not formalize a relationship. We could not get visibility into them. We did not know what their plans were. Over the years, they sent through a few requests for us to make product tweaks. We always complied, etc. Fast forward 2019, January, woke up one morning, my tech lead guy messaged me, said, "Hey, I need your help. You need to contact someone at Twitter. Something's going on with the API. I just can't get access to anything." I'm like, "That's a bit weird." Long story short, Twitter had taken the decision then to not approve products like ours that provide, unfollowing and following services, etc. So a whole bunch of products were crippled overnight with no warning. So the 15-person business, etc., thousands of paid users, it was just like, it was kind of done. And that was an interesting experience, to say the least. I immediately called two friends who knew the business intimately. And I remember waking up the next day, just feeling actually great, because all the things that are still important to you, the sun rises, your friends and family still love you, you still live in a great country. Actually, the things that are still important are there, and it really sucks that this business has gone. And it was pretty unpleasant. They were gaslighting us. They released some weird statement that ManageFlitter is enabling off API actions, which doesn't even make any sense. It was obviously some PR person that just didn't really understand how things worked, and they essentially crippled our product. But and that was, for all intents and purposes, the end of that. And it was quite brutal, Cam, to see the dashboard of this like nice revenue growth going up, and then when they were forced to cripple it, you just see this free fall. I can laugh about it now, but it's kind of, and you have to remember, this was before COVID, and before COVID, there was no overnight kind of failures of businesses. It's just a business that would end overnight. When I would tell people the story, they were like, wow. Now, of course, tragically, during COVID, like a lot of businesses just boom, boom, boom. And now the ManageFlitter story doesn't seem as dramatic. But yeah,
at the time, though.
Yeah, I said to the team at the time, I said, "Listen, guys and gals," I said, "we can let this build us, or we can let it break us." Unfortunately, I had to let the majority of the team go quite quickly, before we decided what our next moves were, etc. And they understood, but it wasn't fun. Wasn't fun for anyone.
One of the hardest things to do as a business owner. Yeah. Well, you survived though, and what happened next?
Well, I thought to myself, what do I do? Do I disappear to Bali for a few months and just forget it? The stress, Cam, that period.
Yeah.
I mean, ManageFlitter in general, the stress of ManageFlitter, technical stress, cleaning up technical debts, dealing with API issues, then Twitter switching us off, and I was literally working. I was so all consumed that I just thought maybe I should just go and just do yoga classes and mango smoothies. Maybe that will do me good. But
did you have a full head of hair before that happened?
I wish I could say I did, but yeah. Well, one thing, I did I did go through such stressful phases at times with ManageFlitter that I did get some weird physical symptoms. Like I even once started getting a pain in my knee. My doctor says, "What have you done to your knee?" I said, "Nothing." It's just all this, like, your body breaks down at a certain point.
Yeah.
But I thought, you know what, I want to get back on the horse. I'm a builder, and I was lucky enough through my network to get some funding for the next project. This was the first time I was getting external funding for a content aggregator called Akufu. We had an idea similar, which I saw subsequently. The Instagram founders had this exactly. It was interesting them seeing a few months ago that they had the exact same vision, although I can happily say we were first, kind of like an AI-powered news aggregator. We worked on that for a while, and then we saw an opportunity, which was essentially a feature within Ukufu that we actually spun out into the Zlinky product. So, and here we are today, still happy and alive and kicking. So, business is, at the end of the day, business successes and failures are just business, and life goes on.
Yeah, it's the right perspective for sure. And once that entrepreneurial spirit is in you, it's almost impossible to ignore. So you obviously had to do something. What was the problem that you were solving with Zlinky? And sorry, I missed the name of the
UKUFU. It's comes from the Zulu word to learn.
Cool. So what was that problem that you were originally setting out to solve there?
Look, with the Kufu, content. I was, as a huge content consumer myself, I was just very frustrated with the lack of a quality granular aggregator that was combining the best of kind of RSS feeds with the layer of AI over the top to kind of provide an intelligence layer around all the articles being published. And I felt that content really needed better tooling around it. And I still feel, and it's interesting, as I say, the Instagram guys, I can't remember the name of the product that they launched, the initial founders of Instagram, obviously feel the same way.
Yeah, definitely a big audacious goal. That's sort of on par with trying to fix email, or something like that. Like, that's a massive sort of thing to try and take on.
It is, and probably in retrospect with our funding, I mean, the Instagram guys would definitely have much deeper pockets, and that certainly helps. And in retrospect, it might have been a little bit ambitious, but it spun out the Zlinky. So, again, being on your surfboard, you never know where the path kind of takes you. You got to keep your eyes open, and you just got to be kind of looking the whole time, because there might be something staring you in the face that's tangential but not totally obvious.
Hopefully not a shark if you're out there in the ocean.
Oh yeah.
No, you're right. Yeah, and you got to be out there on your board to catch those waves. So Zlinky is really about, from my understanding, is about having a really nice way to collect those links as you're consuming content out there on the internet through heaps of different channels, and then store them in a nice organized way so that you can refer back to them, or when you do have time to read them, or you can have that sort of reference point. That's my sort of basic understanding, but I'm sure you can put it better.
Yep, that's exactly right. I mean, I think one of my frustrations with tools these days, they all become too heavy and complex. And Zlinky, we've done a lot of work in very simple, very lightweight, a very simple, lightweight way of managing your bookmarks and soon your images and screenshots as well. So it's amazing the quality of content we come across every day. Not only content, but everything's on a link these days as well, whether it's tracking your e-commerce or your tickets, or so everything. It's become the atomic unit of the internet is the link and the screenshot. So the screenshot, in a way, is also the atomic unit. So it's basically tooling to help people organize these atomic units into something useful.
Very cool. At Ammo, we really encourage people to share interest. We've got a channel in Slack, in our team Slack channel, called Interesting Links. And we encourage the team to, if they come across anything that's useful or is going to, is relevant to what we're working on, to share that in interesting links. And then at the end of the week, we actually go through that as a team and, pick out the things that stand out at our weekly meeting. And then the best ones we share on our newsletter, which we think might be helpful for our customers or our subscribers.
Well,
Actually sounds like we should be using Zlinky.
Well, very soon you'll be able to open up one of your folders so people can follow. So for instance, if I've got a folder for investment tips of approaching investors, etc., and I've got a few friends that would love to just see the articles and pitch deck examples that I pop in there, and they'll be able to just follow my collection, so to speak. Again, not a totally new idea, right? Like you can kind of do this in Google Drive and Trello and this and that, but we hoping our solution is more elegant and purpose built than other solutions. We're hoping that's the goal. It's still early days.
As you say, yeah, sort of delivering better than what's been out there in the past is just that ability to tap into an existing market and problem that needs solving, but just executing way better. So it's really cool. How did you reach your very first customers for Zlinky?
For Zlinky, look, we've still got a database of our ManageFlitter users.
Lovely. Yep.
So even though it's not totally, a perfect crossover of customers, at least it helps us talk to them. We publish a once a week social media update newsletter to ManageFlitter users, the previous ManageFlitter users, and Zlinky. Even though we're the same people, Zlinky sponsors that newsletter. So it gives us a way to get in front of ManageFlitter users, but still actually providing them with some real value, not just not just spamming them. Then we've experimented everything from Google ads in the app to YouTube ads and LinkedIn ads, and we're still very much in build mode, so we're not going totally crazy on the marketing, but we're kind of seeding a few little bits and pieces out there. We're waiting until a little bit more functionality is built into our product before we really start trying to build the messaging and the marketing a little bit more.
But I imagine having that ready set audience where you're leveraging an existing brand in ManageFlitter with that trust and leveraging that trust into the new brand is probably going to be your best channel to start with.
For sure, and particularly my personal network that I built through ManageFlitter. I did a lot of trips to the States and met all sorts of amazing people, and so my personal network, they always happy to try something, give us a try, and they give us amazing feedback. I mean, user feedback on the product side is gold. ManageFlitter was definitely built 90% by product feedback. We were very tuned into that, and now it's Zlinky as well. I just sit in front of people and just a little grain of feedback here and there and stitches it into something hopefully special.
Yeah, it's the lifeblood of product development, right? How are you collecting or soliciting for that feedback at the moment?
One of our team does a user feedback session. We give people Amazon vouchers for their time.
Love it. So you just send them an email, hey, we'd love to hear your thoughts on how to improve the product, or
a few different ways. People either in my network or current users that we notice are logging into the system quite a bit, or there are services where you can just put a profile of person and you can actually just get someone cold off the street, so to speak, that fits that profile, get them to download it, and they can talk through while they're downloading it and using it. So a few different mechanisms, but we are proactive in constantly trying to get that two-way kind of flow going.
Yeah, no, so important. Do you feel like you've hit that inflection point for Zlinky yet, where that bottom of the J curve is starting to flick up? And not yet. And what do you think? What's your hunch on what might be that inflection point or what might create it?
It's the future's so difficult to get right in prediction. I mean, we're hoping images. At the moment, it's just links. You can save and manage your links. We're hoping that images and screenshots will really open up the product a lot.
Definitely a unique that's a pretty cool feature to be able to share as well, I suppose, is going to be pretty powerful.
For sure, for sure. Usually to that inflection point is a coming together of two or three elements that just something aligns, and that's why you just got to be out there on your surfboard and waiting and watching, and hopefully your energy keeps on going, and hopefully you can keep the runway in place, and then just eventually it will happen.
That's why I said to you earlier before we started recording, this podcast is called Weird Growth for that very reason, is that you can't predict these things and they're not always obvious, but when they happen, that hindsight's 2020, you're like, oh, amazing. Of course, that's the way it was going to play out.
And I think there's sometimes it's immediate and sometimes it takes years. I think the beautiful and challenging aspect of startup life is that there's no templates to all of this.
No.
I can share that when ManageFlitter kind of the plug was pulled, I do remember walking around the city and thinking, oh, product market fit is so difficult to get. It's going to be a real pain having to get it again.
Yeah. And it's definitely, luck as much as hard work, as much as being in the right place at the right time. Yeah.
For sure.
What could possibly be next for the future? Obviously, Zlinky's, we're working hard on that. What other things in the roadmap do you have planned?
Look, I love building products. With ManageFlitter, I love the scale. I loved having so many users around the world. I used to, when I traveled to conferences, I used to geo-target a little pop-up on the system and said, ManageFlitter CEO in town, would you like to meet him?
Oh,
and I'd get people, so I met users all over the world. So if I could wave a magic wand, I'd love to scale Zlinky up and be a loved product. I love working with my team. We've got a small team of 5, and they're awesome. Some of which worked on ManageFlitter. Actually, only one.
Yeah.
So working with good people on good products, and then we've got to pay the bills and hopefully become profitable. That's a necessary evil as well. But I do love product. I also mentor a few founders, early stage founders that kind of get just through my network. And I always say to people, if I can be useful, always happy to chat. I love working with people that you can see it in their eyes, right? They just like excited, and I love that part. I think I would love that to be a bigger part of my day today, one day.
Yeah, like it's cliche, but entrepreneurs are the people who are out there challenging traditional industry, building things that never existed before, which are better than anything that's existed before, and it's just a real privilege to be able to work with those people. That's what I love about what we do here at Ammo. And it's just one of those things where you wake up in the morning and looking forward to what you have in the day ahead. It's a very cool thing to be able to do. You have the opportunity.
Someone said, which I really resonate with, they said, entrepreneurship is one of the greatest privileges, but you also wouldn't wish it on your worst enemies. So that contradiction.
Yeah.
You have a bad day or things out of your control. But it is at the end of the day, it is a huge privilege. We choose it, and to be able to really challenge ourselves, to be creative and apply solutions and work with good people. It's very lucky.
What's one big piece of advice you would share with founders who are looking to grow?
Just keep learning.
Mm-hmm.
Keep learning, keep pulling all the different levers, and try not to compare and just over index on the tech press. Sometimes it's very easy to just seem like everyone's just crushing it very easily.
Yes.
That is not the case.
There's
That's
a very
just a
picture.
real pointy end of things. The rest of us grind for years, and so don't over index on that information. You have to be prepared for a marathon. If it feels like a marathon, you're doing that's appropriate for this journey.
Yep. Spot on. Yeah. Yeah. There's no such thing as well, there's very rare things that are true overnight successes. Everything's a 10-year overnight success, right?
Yeah,
Cliche.
it's very, very rare. It's long, long grinds. You have to be up for it, but keep on learning. There's just so many great resources these days. Wow. It's just, the books and the podcasts, and you can listen to the best of the best. How cool is that?
So lucky. Yep.
So lucky.
Mate, getting to the end of the episode, we do a little show and tell time at the end of Weird Growth, where we ask for your favorite tool, device, toy, which is making your life better every day. What's the thing that you're really enjoying using at the moment?
Gosh, I'll show you. It's a bit of a left field one.
Okay.
Where is he? Yeah. How about him?
Who's this?
Can he count?
Yes, absolutely. For anyone who's not watching the video, there's a gorgeous dog sitting on Kevin's lap. What's his name?
His name's Banjo. I adopted him in the middle of COVID. He was found on the streets of Newcastle. No one came to claim him. There were 60 applicants for him, and I was lucky enough to be applicant number 2. Applicant number 1 didn't answer their phone, so I got him. And
scratches right now. What sort of dog is he?
He's half Jack Russell, half pug, called a Jug.
Oh wow, a Jug! Amazing. That's
so. True. I think as entrepreneurs, I think if we can structure in rest, relaxation, exercise, all those wonderful things, and with dogs, we have to go walk them. We have to and with him, he had a few special needs in terms of being a rescue, and I had to spend a lot of time training him and working through his anxiety. So I had to prioritize his needs, but you can see he's a happy little guy now.
Yeah. That's a really healthy thing, isn't it, to have that sort of something else that needs you, relies on you, but enforces you to have a different routine beyond your own selfish doing day to day.
For sure, we can really get sucked into almost the self-importance sometimes, and it's startup life is amazing, but it's not everything. I think sometimes we have to be reminded that it's a little bit of a means to an end as well, not an end to itself.
Spot on.
Certainly can help.
Yeah.
Help
keep us real. Yeah. I have cats at home. They definitely keep me real. Put me in my place.
What do they say? Dogs have owners and cats have masters?
I love it. Yeah. Yeah. Kevin, what's the final plug that you'd like to leave everyone with? If anyone wants to find out more about Zlinky or yourself, what can they do? Yeah,
look, I'm on X or Twitter. I don't know, I used to be a huge lover of it, and it's just I've struggled with some of the change, but I'm still on there. I'm on LinkedIn. If you are an early stage person and you do want to have a chat and I can be of use, you can just, I'm easy to get a hold of on LinkedIn, etc. And of course, if you can give Zlinky a whirl, it's free, zlinky.com, ZLINKY.com. But if anyone's listening to this and they're thinking of just, side hustle or giving something a go, just do it. Even if it kind of leads to nowhere, you'll learn more about yourself. And we need builders. We need builders. We need people that are going out there and give it a go. It's you will not be sorry for the journey.
Well said, mate. Yeah, 100%. Go out there and keep learning. Yeah, and and connect with Kevin and go and download Zlinky. I will be straight after this. But Kevin, mate, thank you so much for being on here and sharing your story and your wisdom and those little anecdotes about those inflection points. Really enjoyed the chat, mate. Thank you.
Likewise, Cam. Appreciate the time. All the best.
Appreciate it. And thank you all out there for listening to Weird Growth. If you enjoyed this, please do subscribe on Apple Podcasts or YouTube. Leave us a review. If you're listening to this on audio, the video version is available on YouTube as well. But until next time, I'm Cam Sinclair at Ammo Marketing. Thanks for listening to Weird Growth. Bye-bye.